Welcome back to One Guy, One Course, One Disc. We are here today in Griffin, Georgia. We're checking out the Green Valley Disc Golf Course. So let's go take a look at the course. Hole 1 is a 210-foot par 3 that's going to go uphill 3 feet. It's going to be 124 feet to this tree that's right in front of us. This is where you want to start to turn to the right if you want to get close to the basket. But once you finish hole number 1, hole 2 is going to be to your left across the road. Hole 2 is a 244-foot par 3 that's going to go uphill 10 feet. It's a pretty straight shot, but it's 130 feet to this gap, which is about 20 feet wide. And once you finish hole number 2, hole 3 will be to your right. Hole 3 is a 263-foot par 3 that's going to go downhill 11 feet. It's going to be about 129 feet to these trees here on the left. Ideally, the straight shot or hooking something out to the right and letting it finish left are probably going to be your best bets on this hole. But once you finish hole 3, hole 4 is going to be to your left. Hole 4 is a 339-foot par 3 that's going to go uphill 17 feet. It's going to be 153 feet to this tree here that's on the left, and then 186 feet to the basket. There is a tree about 10 feet in front of the basket on the left side, so if you can get off to the right on your drive, you'll have a lot more open of a shot. There are woods close to the basket behind it, which can make a putt very difficult if you wind up in them. But once you finish hole 4, hole 5 will be straight ahead of you, and then at the fork you're going to take a left. Hole 5 is a 516-foot par 4 that goes up 2 feet. It's going to be about 181 feet to this tree here on our right. This is where you want to start to turn to the right. It's 215 feet to these back wall of trees. And then from there you want to go straight for about 168 feet, and then it's going to turn to the left into the woods where it's pretty much a poke and hope to get to the basket. But once you finish hole 5, hole 6 will be behind you to the left. Hole 6 is a short but tricky 199-foot par 3 that goes downhill 16 feet. This gap here is 27 feet. You have to throw about 143 feet before it does a sharp turn to the right. There is an option of a high left to right shot, or you can try the low skip shot. But once you finish hole 6, hole 7 will be to the left. You're going to go back across the street, and you're going to go through the gate down the gravel pathway, and it will be off on the left. Hole 7 is a 300-foot par 3 that's going to go uphill 3 feet. It's a water carry most of the way, so you need about 250 feet to clear the water. But you do need to be careful because there are trees that line the bank of this little pond, which can make it difficult. There is this pathway that you can try to land on, but it is narrow, so it's going to be difficult. There is a drop zone right at the start of that pathway. You also share this pathway with hole 14, so watch out for people on 14. But once you finish hole number 7, hole 8 will be straight ahead of you up the hill. Hole 8 is a 237-foot par 3 that's going to go downhill 5 feet. It's a very shape-specific shot, so you need something that goes right, then finishes left. But once you finish hole 8, hole 9 will be to your left. Hole 9 is a 238-foot par 3 that's going to go uphill 8 feet. It's wide open the whole way to the basket, but in front of the basket you have these little hills that you're going to have to cross, so just after a rain be careful of standing water. Also just be careful walking in it. But once you finish hole number 9, hole 10 is going to be to your left. Hole 10 is a 526-foot par 4 that's going to go downhill 36 feet. It is wide open pretty much the whole way to the basket, so you don't have to worry too much. Just don't throw anything too high if you're a right-handed person, because you will hyzer out into the trees if you're throwing a backhand. But ideally you do want to keep your shot to the right, close to where it starts to go up, as it'll give you the most direct approach to the basket that's slightly tucked away in the woods. But once you finish hole 10, hole 11 will be behind you to the left. Hole 11 is a 238-foot par 3 that goes uphill 23 feet. The basket is off on the right just a bit, so it is a tricky shot if you don't have a good left or right swinging shot. But once you finish hole 11, hole 12 will be straight ahead of you. Hole 12 is a 532-foot par 4 that's going to go downhill 24 feet. On your first shot, you do want to try and get to the left, as it's going to open up the shot to the basket for your approach. But if you can't get the distance on your first shot, ideally your second shot you want to try and just get it into the gap that we're coming up to. It's about 395 feet to this tree here on the left that forks, and this is kind of the start of the gap. And then once you get here, the fairway swings to the right to get to the basket. But once you finish hole 12, hole 13 will be behind you to the left. Hole 13 is a 255-foot par 3 that goes uphill 10 feet. That first gap right off the tee is about 5 feet wide, so you do need to be careful. But the water carries only 150 feet, so as long as you can get through that gap, you should be able to get across no problem. There are some trees close to the bank, but they should be far enough back that you should easily be able to get onto dry land. But once you finish hole 13, hole 14 will be straight ahead of you, then down the gravel path to the left. Hole 14 is the start of the holes around the lake. This first one is 246 feet. It's going to go uphill 2 feet. You're going to need about 185 feet to carry the water. Wind is a huge factor around this lake, so you do need to read the wind carefully as you approach these shots. But once you finish hole 14, hole 15 is going to be to your right. Hole 15 is a 288-foot par 3 that carries the water pretty much the whole way. If you're trying to do a right to left shot, it'll be about 246 feet to get across. If you do have a good left to right shot, it's probably the safest play, as you can stay overland the whole way. And the basket is 28 feet from the water, so you do got to be careful with rollaways and shots that are going left to right. But once you finish hole 15, hole 16 is straight ahead of us along the guardrail. Hole 16 is a 257-foot par 3 that carries the water if you're dominant right to left shot. If you do have a left to right shot, you might be able to get around this bush staying dry the whole time. But it is about 234 feet if you do go across the water, and it's perched up on this little hill. But once you finish hole 16, hole 17 is to your left. Hole 17 is a 302-foot par 3. It gives us a little break from the water for a second. It's pretty much a straight shot with the basket being tucked away in this little group of trees. It's 265 feet to the mouth, which is about 10 feet wide. But once you finish hole 17, hole 18 will be straight ahead of you, then off to the left. Hole 18 is an 844-foot par 5 that's going to go downhill 21 feet. Don't let the open, fairly straight fairway fool you. There's usually a wind that cuts across the fairway towards the lake. So if you throw anything that doesn't dump hard left, there's a good chance you might wind up in the lake. It's going to be about 408 feet to these rocks right here. And then once we get past these rocks, it's going to be 340 feet to this tree. Ideally, you want to try and get to the left, as will make your approach a lot easier because you don't have to cross the water. The basket's not too far from the water's edge, so if you can get up towards those rocks there, you'll stay fairly safe. But once you finish hole 18, the parking lot will be to your left. Now that you've seen the course, let's take a look at today's disc. It's going to be the Dynamic Discs Convict. It's a 9.4 minus 0.53, so let's see how it flies here. And this is why I don't throw too many backhands, because I end up in positions like this, where I have nothing. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. And that right there is why I do bad in tournaments. Ooh. Oh, get out of it. And I did exactly what I didn't want to do. Oh. Jeez, that thing's... Well, another one bites the dust. Honestly, I thought I had the clearance to do that, or the clearance on that shot. Felt great out of the hand. Just wasn't as long as I thought it was. I mean, I've played this course once. I've thrown discs from there. I can clear this lake, little pond. Just didn't have the distance with that shot. So if you come to Green Valley, hole 7, it's not too far from the shore. I tried to go out, but it's a lot deeper than it seems. Pretty much sunk the second I stepped in the water. But if you have a grabber, you might be able to get it. I mean, I can see the disc from the shore. I didn't feel safe walking in there. So hole 7, close to the basket side of the water. Dynamic disc Convict if you want it. As far as the disc goes, it's a very overstable disc. It's gonna fight back, which is great for a course like this around water, because you know you can throw it over the water and it'll come back. On a windy day especially, it gets pretty windy here, so it's a great disc for a course like this. So if you're looking for something overstable that you know you can trust, go for the Convict. As far as the course goes, it's pretty open. There are some wooded holes, but they're just trees and an open fairway. This is nothing like it to me, like, you know, the tracks, to me that's a wooded course. So this course, it's great. Very open, very beginner friendly, minus the water. But definitely come check it out. Bring some overstable discs. It does get windy here, so if you bring something understable, there's a good chance it's going to end up in the water. But definitely come check it out. But until next time, off to the next course.